Good morning, everybody. We will get started. Thank you for joining us. Good morning. My name is Nick Antonopoulos, and I'm the General Manager for Business here at Australia Post, and I'm really thrilled to be hosting today's webinar. It's the next series webinars that we've designed to support Australia's small to medium business. Before we get started, though, I'd like to firstly acknowledge the traditional custodians of the land on which we operate, live and gather, and recognise their continuing connection to land, water and community. We pay respects to elders, past, present and emerging. Thank you. If this is the first time you've been involved in an On24 webinar, or if you need a refresher, I'm going to quickly run through a couple of widgets you can see at the bottom of your screen as an audience. During our panel discussion, you'll be given the opportunity to also ask our panelists some questions of your own. You can submit these via the Q&A widget. And an on-demand version of the webcast, I know I get asked this all the time, will this be recorded? Will we have access to it later? We want somebody to listen to it? Yes, it is. An on-demand version of this webcast will be available within 24 hours of this live session, and will be able to be accessed using the same audience link that we sent you earlier. So you'll receive an email once the on-demand version is available for you to review, share with other friends. So hopefully that answers any other questions you may have, but we'll get started. As an introduction, I guess I'd just like to say, and I'm sure you'll all agree with me, that what a year we've had. The disruptive events of 2020 have certainly substantially impacted businesses worldwide, and I'm sure you'd agree, triggered a shift in consumer behaviour that's really accelerated e-commerce years in the space of 12 months, whether it's 4 or 5 years, depending on the industry you're in, but that's certainly the volume of growth. Today's discussion will focus on how Australian businesses have adapted to meet this change in times. We'll hear from some industry experts and how you can improve your online selling experience to capitalise on this e-commerce growth. I don't know if any of you have, hopefully many of you have seen this, but we've released a really major publication that's called the 2021 Inside Australian Online Shopping E-commerce Report. And the numbers are staggering. Just to throw some numbers to bring us all on the same page. Last year, in 2020, 9 million Australian households shopped online. That's 82% of all the households in Australia, a staggering amount. And the online purchases grew at nearly 60% year on year, and we are to approximately over $50 billion in online. So that's an amazing number. The monthly average number of households shopping online increased 1 million year on year. So 1 million new people shopping online. And that's really driven, I guess, the key metric that we all follow is what percentage of total retail sales is online. And the answer is we've reached nearly 16.3%. And at the start of the journey, we're really, we were only at 11.3% pre-pandemic in 2019. And so that's why we think it's growth to 4 or 5 years. This shift has really brought Australia, with some of its peers in the UK and the US, in their pre-pandemic numbers. And these markets have also shifted. So there's still a significant upside that we see in terms of the e-commerce opportunity here in Australia. We're at 16 to 17%. We think in the next 5 years it's going to get to the mid-20s, whilst North America and Europe will be in the mid-30s. So we don't think it's slowing down, and it's still a huge opportunity. And we've certainly seen the spikes by lockdowns and waves of COVID pandemics, but as restrictions have eased and online shopping activity has remained at a much higher level than pre-pandemic, I think what we've really seen is people have come online to shop through pandemic, but have stayed as customers, realised the convenience and the choice of shopping online. So, but as a result, I guess, of online, as a result of, the pandemic, what we've seen is that, a huge number, over 70% of small businesses had to change. They had to operate by moving more online. And if they were running both retail outlets, as we have many customers who run both retail and have maybe a small e-commerce site, but now they really had to pivot. They had to move to purely online, and we saw many, many examples how successful they were able to do and really save their business. But in today's webinar, I'm really, really excited that we've got some really great panel, great people here to help us understand the e-commerce opportunity and understand what is ahead of us and what do we think each of us can learn. These people have had many years experience and really no better way to really start the conversation as to really our special guest. And I'm looking forward to speaking to him, and that's Gabby Leibovich. You may not know Gabby's not what we call a celebrity CEO, sorry Gabby, but he is an unbelievable not a serial pest, but a serial entrepreneur, and you might know him as Catch of the Day, but he's also been involved in a number of other startups online with Scoopon, Menulog. Is also the author of a book which we'll talk about a fair bit. But really, it's about understanding the journey that Gabby has taken to be such a success, and how he and his brother Hezi started Catch of the Day from their garage in 2004, 2005, and over 14 years they've built an amazing business. As said, through the conversation, we'll reference the book, and I can certainly recommend it. I've got my copy. It's called Catch of the Decade, and I've got to say, it's every page has got gems that if you are seriously thinking about how you're going to improve your e-commerce business, you've got to get this book. And Gabby's not paying me to say that. Following my interview with Gabby, we've got a couple of other very, very, very interesting guests that really going to round up a really great panel. That's Steph Pase from Steph Pase Planners, and Jeremy, a guest from Jeremy Neyman from eBay. Will join Gabby to discuss how small business can capitalize on the recent growth in e-commerce to really take their business to new heights. So, as an incentive, as I said towards the end of the panel, I'll have some questions for the panel, but I'm also going to invite our listeners to be able to ask some questions, and questions that we've selected to put to the panel. Well, those people will also get a free copy of Catch of the Decade that Gabby and his brother wrote. So think about the questions you might want to ask, and we'll send you a free copy of the book. Okay, so let's get started. First of all, let me welcome our key guest, Gabby Leibovich. Are you with us, Gabby?
I've just joined in. Nice to be here, Nick. Thank you all for joining us this morning.
My pleasure. Gabby, no, it's a real pleasure to have you join us today. Gabby, a lot of people don't know you. They know obviously your brands. Your brands are household names, but they don't know you. So I'd like to start with the end in mind, or I call it maybe your new beginning. Where are you now? And then we'll go back to where you started. And I love the way you've sort of even structured your book around how you got started, how you ramped up your businesses, and how you really accelerated. So take us where you are today, and tell us where is Gabby today?
Okay, so Catch, which was our, larger business and probably the most well-known one, was sold in August of 2019 to Wesfarmers. Today, Catch sits under the banner of Kmart and Target. And for the rest of you, Wesfarmers also runs Bunnings and Officeworks. I mean, what an amazing collection of Australian leading brands, a company valued at $50 billion plus. And now our, humble, site that we launched in a Caulfield garage back in 2004, selling on eBay, and later on in a tiny warehouse in Moorabbin, is now part of those amazing brands. It gives me a lot of pleasure to know that and understand that, and have the belief that this brand will be here for many years to come, leading Australian e-commerce and fighting the international and local large players. I have been describing my situation over the last year or year and a half as I feel like a retired soccer player watching the best game from the sidelines. And hasn't it been the best game ever? We both are soccer lovers, Nick. And that's truly how I feel. I mean, being in e-commerce today and retail must have been such a pleasure for so many of my friends. But I'm not one of them anymore because I'm out of the game. We've spent the first 6 months of 2020 writing our story. As you mentioned, the book is called Catch of the Decade, and it gives me a lot of pleasure, hearing from readers every day, telling me how much they've enjoyed the book and how they're actually learning from our lessons. And these are lessons of both success and failure, and hopefully implementing those lessons into their own small businesses. And those businesses don't have to be in e-commerce. They could be in absolutely anything and everything out there.
You're absolutely right, Gabby. Some of the lessons apply to even Australian Post, the way we manage and engage with our customers. So I totally agree with you. Okay, that's where you are today, Gabby. Let's go back. Let's roll back the years. You arrived in Australia from Israel with your family, including your brother, younger brother and sister, at the age of 16. And tell us how you got here. Tell us, I'm also interested in some of what I think your father taught you about being taken sometimes the third door. Tell us how you started into business and what was the early lessons you've learned that really helped you set the foundations before you got into online. And next after that, I'd like to know, how did you transition from physical selling to online? So let's start from the beginning.
Okay, so a bit of perspective. So I arrived in Australia at the age of 16. It was 1986. I'm 50 today. I'd like to call it, we were quite lucky to be there at the right place at the right time when people started shopping online. I think that, my story is very much an inspirational story of immigrants arriving with not that much and living the Australian dream. And, how amazing this country is. And look at us right now. The whole world is struggling with so much. And, we are truly living an amazing life here post-COVID. Prior to launching Catch of the Day, we launched Catch of the Day from a tiny garage in Moorabbin in 2006. Prior to doing that, I was selling literally in my garage at home in a suburb of Caulfield on eBay. Very, very early days of eBay, Nick, those days that most people, when you mention the internet, ask you the silly question, is it safe to put your credit card online? And when you approach suppliers, the general question that I always received was, where is your retail store? And when we told them that we don't have a retail store, we only sell online, none of them really understood what it was. And for that reason, they rejected our advances and were not interested in selling to us. You mentioned the concept of the third door that we talk about in the book. And the third door is initially you try and get in through the front door and you get rejected and you try and find another door, which may be the back, it may be a window, or it may require you using some force and kicking metaphorically that front door. I often like to use LinkedIn, for example, to be able to find my way and get myself introduced to lots of leaders of lots of companies. I encourage the listeners today to keep using it. It's an amazing tool. And when you send someone a LinkedIn connection or a message, they have to read your message. And if your message is, strong enough, things can happen. One of the lessons in the book, and this book is full of about 200 lessons, is that sometimes in life, all you have to do is ask. And a lot of people are truly afraid to ask, afraid of getting a rejection. But if you do ask and if you do, apply yourself and get out there, magical things can happen.
Okay. Tell us about when you launched Catch of the Day in 2006 with 5 employees. What was your vision at the time? around catch of the day.
Yeah. People often ask me the question is, Gabby, did you think that this business will become as big as it is? And it's a funny question, because when we launched that business, all we were looking for is to have a job, earn a living, send the kids to school and put food on the table. I think back in 2004, even the word startup wasn't being, commonly used. And we were just running a small business. And it truly was a small business. Our first team was myself and my brother, Chezi, who has been my founder over this journey, and a team of 6 people, a tiny warehouse in the suburb of Moorabbin with 5 people. And we truly worked as a team. I clearly remember that in the early days, our mission was to sell something like 60 products a day. And with 60 products a day, we knew that we'll be able to take home, a basic salary and have a decent life like most of our friends. And as they say, due to timing, luck, lots of hard work, execution, and, so much more, like great partners and great employees, we managed to build some successful, tremendous businesses, over the last decade.
But your initial business, though, was selling one product, catch of the day, deal of the day.
Yep.
Tell us, how did you come with a crazy idea, I'm going to sell one product for today?
Yeah.
And how would you get suppliers to help you with this? Because I thought getting suppliers to work with you must have been a challenge.
Yeah. So what do you believe? Back in 2006, just to remind your audience, none of the traditional players were selling online. Neither was JB Hi-Fi or Good Guys or Coles or Woolworths or Myer or Dave & Jones. None of them were selling online. Our biggest competitor was a company run by my frenemy friend, Paul Greenberg, that we all know. He's often referred to as the grandfather of retail. I'm guessing if he's the grandfather, I'm probably the grandmother. And Paul had a tremendous business called Deals Direct in Sydney. And we remember Paul at the time had about 5,000 SKUs. And in our tiny warehouse in Moorabbin, we hardly had about 200 SKUs, and we just couldn't beat them. And by pure chance and coincidence, we spotted a company in the USA called Woot, WOOT.com. And Woot came up with that silly concept of selling one deal a day. And we looked at it and said, wow, we can't compete on scale and on size, but maybe we could compete on our ability to source great deals. So often myself and my brother say that we are not experts in finance, nor are we, understand the legal side of the business and so many other elements. But what we are is we found that we are actually good buyers. I've been buying and selling all my life. My dad was always a small trader. And by the way, at the time of launching Catch of the Day, I wasn't a kid either. I was 36-year-old. My brother was 30-year-old. With a lot of ambition and an interesting idea. But that concept of selling one deal a day really struck a chord with Australian audiences. And due to the concept of FOMO, fear of missing out, and due to our ability to source great products, we managed to grow that business by very much word of mouth. People were telling their friends about the latest site that they have discovered. And again, there was not much else to look at online. So we were quite fortunate to truly have no online competition. And as they say, Nick, the rest is history.
Amazing. And from there, you moved to Catch. And tell us how you grew that business. What was the success of growing the Catch business?
It's interesting. I get that often, that question mentioned quite a lot. And of course, we can talk about that for the next, day or an hour, which we don't have the time. I like to discuss the concept of growing pains. It was really hard to grow in the early days because we were just doubling the business every single year. In the first 5 years, Nick, we moved 5 different warehouses. We doubled our revenue every year. We doubled our parcels, our boxes, to the delight of Australia Post. And we're actually Australia Post #1 customer for, quite a lot of years. We may still be today, but I really don't know the numbers. You can tell me afterwards. Yeah, and it was a real pleasure. But the whole concept of growing pains, which is something that I see with a lot of friends of mine going through this period right now, because everyone got such an amazing boost during 2020. Some people refer to it as a 10-year growth over a 10-week period, which again, I missed out on. But I truly refer to this period as by far the best period of my life. Those 5 years of building Catch from an idea to a very successful business was a lot of fun, Nick.
As part of your growing, I noticed in 2011 you sold 40% of Catch to Tiger Global. What drove that, and why did you do that?
It's interesting. We never really considered selling the business. The business was always profitable. I often quote the line, we were profitable every day, every week, every month, every year. Unlike other businesses, we really treated it as a small business. And the way that we know how to run a business is to turn a profit at the end of the week. But around 2010, we started getting approached by a lot of VCs, high net worth individuals from all around the world. And one day our business was valued at 50 million. The next month it was 80 million. We kept on growing. It was 120, 150. Approaches came from left, right, and center. And at the end, we ended up selling it to a very large VC from the USA called Tiger Global. The valuation of the business at the time in 2011 was 200 million. And we sold 40% of the business for a sum of $80 million. And in the book, Nick, this is the last page of chapter 1. And it ends with the following lines, and my life was never the same again.
If we just go back, but for Fast Track, later on, you bought back that equity
right.
in the business. What drove that? And was that a good deal? In your perspective, was it a good deal to sell and buy back?
Yeah, so VCs generally like to stick around for 5-6 years and take the business to the next level. We found ourselves 5 years down the track. It was 2016. And in the book, we mentioned that the brothers went to the investors and told them, hey, guys, it was a lot of fun running the business together for the last 5 years, but we truly want to run it again as a privately owned small family business. And, the line that we use in the book is we agreed on a price that both parties were uncomfortable with, and we bought the business back. And lots of people approached us at the time and says, what are you doing? Why are you taking money out of your own pocket to buy a larger share of your business? And I remember my message to those people at the time. I said, look, we are risk takers. Come and talk to me in 3 years. We may be seen as really smart or complete idiots. Time will tell.
Okay. I also was fascinated. You started having a Catch of the Day, a grown business, successful business, but you also got yourself involved in so many other businesses.
Yeah.
Why? Did you think you were, I guess, some gold diffusion, or could you focus on so many different startups? Tell us all.
No.
You had Menulog, you had Mumgo, you had so many other startups. Why did you do that, and were you able to focus on them?
I mentioned before the concept of FOMO. The whole concept of Catch of the Day and its growth was driven by fear of missing out. The truth is, Nick, I think that myself and my brother also suffer from that disease, and we also struggle from fear of missing out. In 2010, it started by us spotting a company in the USA called Groupon, and we really liked that concept. It was similar to Scoopon, but it was selling services instead of products. And the next day, we started launching a competitor to Groupon, or an equivalent site. We called it Scoopon. And it turned into a very large success within a very, very short time. What we have discovered at that moment is that we can take our amazing toolbox, which is a great database, trust of customers, a great team in the office, etc., and be able to build vertical businesses. We spent the next year of 2012, and by the way, I'm giving you the really rushed version of the whole story because we only have about 20-25 minutes together. We managed to build a number of other businesses. The first one was Grocery Run, a site that sold groceries online. And would you believe we sold groceries online before, Coles and Woolworths? The next site we launched online was Mumgo, which is something along the lines of baby bunting online, with the slogan "Where Mums Go." Then the third one was we spotted an interesting space around the world that was heating up, and that was the food delivery business. We all know exactly what it is right now, but back in 2012, we still used to call, Gino's Pizza to order our Capricciosa. We launched a business called Eatnow. Eatnow was, a huge success for us. Later on, 3 years later, in February of 2015, Eatnow ended up merging with the market leader, which was Menulog, a Sydney-driven competitor. We talk about the concept of 1 + 1 = 3, whereby we always believe that if you team up with your competitor, you'll be able to build a larger business and a lot easily. And Menulog and Eatnow ended up selling 3 or 4 months later for a stupendous amount of money. It was over $800 million to an English player called Just Eat.
It's amazing. It's amazing. It sounds like you had catch, but you really were able to look, not to stop looking at opportunities and trends throughout the world and learning and taking opportunities. That's amazing. Talk to us around the rebranding. You went from to catch. Why did you do that, and what was the value of doing that?
Yeah, so we rebranded from Catch of the Day to Catch, I think it was around July 2017. We actually coincided the rebranding with the launch of a marketplace. So until that moment, Catch held all of its stock in our large warehouse at Truganina on the western side of Melbourne. We had about a warehouse full of $40 million worth of goods. I think it was about 30,000 SKUs. But at the end of the day, 30,000 SKUs is a very, very small amount of money when you compare to eBay, for example. And, we took a lesson from smarter people like us, like Jeff Bezos, that always mentioned that marketplaces are eating the world. And we launched another marketplace in Australia. And would you believe that at the time there was only one marketplace in Australia, and that was eBay, super successful. But, if the word of the year in 2020 was Corona, the word of the year in 2021 is marketplaces. And I've got friends that currently sell on about 17 or 18 marketplaces. And this week alone, there were 2 announcements, one by Click Frenzy and another one by Woolworths. And there's more and more coming. So marketplaces is certainly the place to be. And I'm guessing there's a few e-commerce players or brand owners listening to us today. My advice is today, try and sell on as many marketplaces as you can, because you really need to be where the customers are. And it's really unavoidable. It'll be great for your business.
Okay, gave us some great ideas, and we'll pursue some further questions. But at this stage, I'd like the other panelists to join us if they can. Joining Gabby today on the panel, we have Steph Pase and Jeremy Neyman. Are you with us, Steph and Jeremy?
Hey, how you going? Thanks for having me.
Great to have you, Steph. Jeremy, are you with us? There you go. Very good, Jeremy. I hope you're happy to listen to Gabby's talk and his early days as one of your best sellers. Steph, I'd like to start with you, if I may, please. Steph, some of you don't know, is the face behind Just Another Mummy blog and Steph Pase Planners. This little amazing powerhouse content creator first stepped on the scene as your girl next door mum that would show up every day online, sharing her passion for organizing hacks and tips, in addition to her beauty, fitness, recipes, interiors, fashion. Is there anything you didn't do, Steph? And and her attitude saw her grow her digital community to over 250,000 followers, which is amazing, on Instagram and YouTube. And incredibly, and additionally launched an incredible successful business that outgrew her home and first warehouse in weeks. Welcome. Welcome, Steph. Tell us a little about your little journey.
Yeah, so you pretty much summed it up there. But yeah, so I'm a mum of 2. I've got a 3-year-old and a 5-year-old. And then I've got my husband, Ryan, who's a builder. But yeah, basically I well, the blog became like first before the business, so I'll quickly start off with that. But basically, I had my first daughter, Harper, and I think a lot of the mums out there, if you're listening, would understand when you've got a newborn, you're at home, you're kind of stuck under a baby most of the day. And for someone like me, I kind of just can't help it, but I always have to be doing something. And I just really wanted to connect with other people. So I started the Instagram page, Just Another Mummy Blog, which was a bit of a joke, but now that's the name. And I kind of started the blog from there, and I just really liked to share my advice I had in makeup, beauty, fitness, and then my huge love for organization. And I just really have, my purpose is to really just help others and help them like get past their day-to-day life and not feel like they're a slave to their own home and their own life. So that's kind of like my why. I just really want to make people's lives easier. And then I've always loved a good planner, but I always felt like with planners, you always had to buy add-ons. Like you always had to have all these extra things. So I'm like, what if I made a planner that had everything? So I went out and I did it. That was in 2019. So my first planner was the 2020 edition. What a year to start, hey? But it went amazingly, and I'm always underestimating myself. That's just what I do. But I always just plan to start it and then pack on the weekends in my garage. But, you know, it kind of just took off like wildfire, and I did not expect it. So soon I had to gather my friends around. We were packing in the garage, trying to get thousands of planners out in time. And then soon enough, I needed a warehouse. So then we moved to a warehouse. And then from there, we moved to another warehouse that was even bigger because we ran out of space. But that's kind of my story.
It's an amazing story. It is an amazing story. It shows you from a passion. For a passion, you've developed a business and a very, very successful business. So congratulations. And we'll certainly ask you some more questions about the secrets of that. And Jeremy, I'd like to also welcome you on board as a special guest from eBay. You're the senior manager of seller operations at eBay, and you've been at eBay for 5 years. So, but you've spent 10 years in digital media. So you've got a wealth of experience that hopefully you can share some of your learnings with our listeners. So I guess what I'm really keen to understand from yourself, Jeremy, is what are the trends you're seeing from eBay, and what sort of advice you're going to give our customers and our listeners around using eBay?
Yeah, great. Thanks, Nick. Really great to be here in such an exciting event to speak at. I think, as you sort of said at the beginning, it's been a really interesting 12 to 18 months in the e-commerce landscape. And similar to Australia Post, eBay's actually released a lockdown report 1 year on, which sort of demonstrates a lot of the trends that we've seen in the last 12 months and the trends that we're continuing to see stick. I think if we go back to March last year, we obviously saw a huge spike as shutdowns began, particularly around face masks and hand wash and sanitizers. Incredible uplift, 700,000% increase on face masks, for example. And with such a large audience, eBay's got 12 million unique visitors every month. It's a good, I guess, cultural barometer of what people are buying and the consumer sentiment. As we went through sort of the other months of lockdown from April onwards, as more people started to work from home, we saw increases in, office equipment and furniture being sold. With gyms closing, 4 times increase in sort of running activewear, yoga equipment, and also people doing home improvements in gardening, and even collectible games. So we could sort of see each month as people were going through lockdown what they were spending their time on, which was really interesting. One point that we saw was over that sort of 12-month period, $59 million worth of books were sold during that time. So people really caught up on their reading. And Gabby, obviously, your book's there as well. And then I think what I found really interesting is during sort of the lockdown period, as people started to stream more TV shows through their streaming services, eBay saw a really interesting correlation with people buying products related to those particular shows. So, for example, Michael Jordan's The Last Dance basketball documentary, during that time, the sales of Chicago Bulls merchandise went up. So really interesting correlation to what people are doing, outside of the e-commerce landscape. But Nick, to go back to your point in terms of what we see as trends that are sticking and are here to stay, I think you mentioned at the start, the e-commerce shift and the buyers moving to online is definitely here to stay. We see through the research that we've done that 83% of consumers are likely to continue spending online and shopping online, even with the vaccine rollouts, and expect to do up to 40% of their shopping online within 2 to 3 years. So that just shows there's great opportunity there for businesses out there, small to medium businesses looking to make that shift. The other two trends we're seeing is people are buying local, supporting Aussie businesses, and I guess avoiding the international delays with shipments coming into Australia. And then finally, lots of buyers are actually becoming sellers themselves, either through starting up side hustles or just decluttering their home. So they're sort of the three trends that we're seeing stick at eBay.
Fantastic. Thank you. Thanks, Jeremy. Gabby, if I turn back to you, Jeremy's shared some of the trends that he sees from the sellers that and buyers on eBay. You obviously keep a very watchful eye on the industry, and even this week I see you involved in all sorts of industry events in Sydney and in Melbourne tonight. What shifts in consumer behaviour do you notice through the year, and do you see what other shifts in consumer behaviour do you think we should be expecting in the next 2 years? Gabby, are you with us?
Okay, I've muted myself earlier. Look, even though the discussion today is all about e-commerce, maybe I'll just answer generally. And the whole COVID effect has been just tremendous on the whole world, obviously, to some degree. I'm talking about the degree of change and what change can bring. But the disruption that COVID brought with it to so many industries, of course, here we are talking about retail, but it's everywhere. It's about working from home. And look at all of us right now. We are all not sitting in an office. To HR, to health, education, you name it. The 2021, I think, will forever be remembered as the best year ever to probably launch a business, invest in a business, and be involved in a startup. I'm a proud Israeli, as you all know, because I was born there. And whatever's been happening around there right now in all segments of disruptions are just phenomenal. Every morning I wake up to see another company that's worth $1, $2, $3, $4, $5 billion. Investment is going through the roof. It is so easy to raise money today like never before. Consumer behavior, I really love the way that a lot of our world is moving to social. I love social media. I spend a lot of my day on LinkedIn and Facebook. Others love Snapchat. My kids are on TikTok, and someone else is on Instagram. I think the next 2 years are going to be we'll see a tremendous shift to the conversion of e-commerce and social media. There's a lot to still come from that space. I know I didn't answer your questions, but that's just the way I roll, Nick.
That's okay. Okay, I guess that's what we're here for. Steph, can I turn back to you? As you said, your business flourished in 2020. And we've certainly seen a rapidly shift, as we all talked about, across the industry. How did you adapt your business, in that phenomenal growth?
Yeah, definitely. 2020 was definitely a roller coaster. And for someone who's just started, my first product-based business, actual physical business, it was definitely, a learning curve, having the kids at home, trying to pack planners at the same time. But I think in terms of having, an online business, especially at these times, as you guys have been saying, is it's really important that, people out there are really wanting connection. A lot of people are still stuck at home. They want to be able to connect with other people. And I think it's really important, as my community is heavily online, that, I'm showing up every day. It's just like catching up with a friend and sharing my tips and tricks. And I think, being a business, if you're a small business, it's really handy to actually schedule, live events, hopping on live on Instagram or Facebook, have Facebook communities where your customers can actually ask you questions on there every day and you're there for them, and just really being there and showing them, what your product, how it can help them, and not being afraid to put that content out there. Whenever I'm putting out content, I usually like to make sure it's one of three things. Is it educational, helpful, inspirational? So is it going to inspire them, or is it relatable? Just something so they can actually have a laugh. So for me, I think it's just really connecting with other people and making sure you're there to help them, and not just selling them things, but you're actually there and show them the person behind the brand.
Okay, fantastic. Can I turn back then? One more question to you, Gab, before I go to the rest is, we talked about the number of new customers that we saw. Our figure says, I think 1.3 million new households entered the market last year for the first time. Jeremy sort of provided some data from eBay, which said we think that nearly 80% of these people will continue to shop online. With all these newcomers online, what approach should retailers be taking? Do you think first-time online shoppers have unique needs or expectations?
Look, I think just like in most industries, you would expect to see some sort of consolidation. Let's be honest, there's never going to be another Catch or Kogan being born in a local Melbourne or Sydney garage. The price of scaling today is simply impossible to be able to build a large database and a large following. Again, we were very fortunate to be there at the right place at the right time, and we didn't have to spend any money on marketing because people told their friends. But to reach a decent database, and a decent database today is 2 to 3 million customers that will transact with you, will cost truly hundreds of millions of dollars. I touched on the marketplace effect later on. I think more and more brand owners will sell on more and more marketplaces. Jeremy is here, and again, in 2017 there was only one, but today there's close to 20 marketplaces. And it really feels like this is the way to go. Some people like shopping on Catch, others like Amazon, others like eBay, others like the iconic Kogan or Temple & Webster. And you truly need to be where the customers are. My general message is stop being arrogant, stop believe that you can do it all yourself, because most likely you cannot. You will definitely be able to scale your business by cooperating with others rather than trying to build your own unique database that will have to jump onto your URL. Of course, some of them are very successful at doing that. Nike is probably the first one that comes to mind, but there's very few Nikes out there.
True. Steph, I want to get to the issue of supply chains challenges. You were initially thinking that you were going to sell 2,000 planners, you sold 10,000. When you sold out very fast, how did you get more stock to keep meeting the demand? And has that experience changed the way you forecast demand now?
Yeah, it was definitely a huge learning curve for me. And being new to this whole business, I've always done, blogs and YouTube and stuff like that. And now it's gone to something completely different. I've got to manage staff. I've got a team. I've got customers. I need to make sure I've got stock. And I've recently learnt that lesson when I've just run out of magnets, and we're struggling to get more stock. But it's definitely, something that you need to learn your customers, patterns and how much they're going to buy. But for me, I tend to like to figure out an average of, say, for example, I'm selling a planner. I like to figure out the average I'm selling per week, and then estimating how long it's going to take for new stock to get manufactured, when it's going to get here. So I always like to have a buffer. So say when my planners get down to maybe 1,000 planners, I go, I quickly got to order some more, because otherwise they're going to go and I'm going to have stock. Also doing things like a pre-sale, that's a really good way to know how popular a product's going to be. So when I first started, I did a pre-sale for my planner and it went out of the park. So I knew straight away, got to get more manufactured. So doing pre-sale is a really good indicator and can give you, just help you learn how popular a product is going to be.
No, that's a great idea. Great tip. Thanks, Steph. Jeremy, can I go back to you? Gabby talked about using all the marketplaces. How do you feel about that? And what advice do you advise customers in terms of selection of online channels that works best for them, especially for a small business?
Yeah, well, I wouldn't have my eBay hat on if I didn't completely agree with Gabby in terms of marketplaces. I'd be doing a disservice, right? But I think I pretty much echo actually what Gabby said is you really need to be where your consumers are. And I think Steph's done that really well, actually, when you think about the following that she's built on the social platforms and then, executing e-commerce there. So you look at where your customers are and build the e-commerce experience around that. Marketplaces they're a great option for a number of reasons, because there's a lot of great tools and features built in, plus the traffic is there. And I think that's the main consideration when you are looking to scale, is looking at your margins and how much it might actually cost you to build the traffic and the conversions on your own site versus leveraging partners like marketplaces, for example, who can help you scale. Obviously, there's other considerations with marketplaces around cost of doing that, but I think they're the main points I would say to those looking to either get online or scale their online businesses. And then I think what's really important and sometimes gets forgotten is providing and prioritizing a really great buyer experience, just as you would within a bricks and mortar business. So thinking about shipping and thinking about customer service and really providing that great experience. Trust is a big thing online, and it's very hard to build that up once you've broken that. So definitely recommend those in the audience there to really deep dive into their customer service, shipping, return policies, and building it for the customer in mind.
Stephanie, if I can ask you, what advice do you give people who want to go online? Gabby's given us a lot of advice. What advice do you give people?
Definitely to, if you're going on social media, in terms of, trying to build your community, it's definitely to show the person behind the brand, show who you are, why have you started your business, what is your passion, and even go so far as getting, your customers involved. When I'm in the process of designing a new planner, I will go on, my Instagram stories and I'll say, what do you guys want to see in this next year's planner, and actually get their feedback, and they really do appreciate that. And, people, especially after 2020, people want to buy from other people. They need that human connection, especially, my big demographic is mothers, and a lot of the time mothers are at home and they just want to connect with other people. But, if you share, behind the scenes packing orders, making your products or shipping them, show them, in your garage, if you're in your garage, people are more likely going to wanting to buy off you than some really big brand, because I actually feel like they're buying from a person. So definitely don't be afraid to show up every day, show the process, show the hardships as well. I feel like just being authentic and showing like the real you, especially on social media, is really important, not to get caught up in all the filtered images and all the, Instagram models and stuff, and just be yourself and don't be afraid to show that.
Okay, fantastic. We've got some questions from our audience. Megan from Miller's Haulage. I think it's a big question for you, Gabby. What would be your top 3 tips for starting a new brand, new online business? Would you recommend a product or service based on type of business? Top 3 tips for starting a new brand online.
Look, let's just assume it's e-commerce and not service. So obviously, service businesses are amazing as well, and there's a lot of opportunity there. Probably more opportunities than with e-commerce. Look, to go far and wide would be quite difficult these days because there's too many strong players. What I would suggest is to find a niche. There's still a lot of niches. I'm not going to share any with you because I'm hoping to start some of them at some stage. So there are still opportunities out there, but they're going to have to be in a niche area. This is certainly the first one that comes to mind. General messages are don't sit on it for too long because there's hundreds of people like you in Australia and thousands around the world that are trying to do exactly the same thing. Get out there, launch your product, do whatever is required, but as I mentioned earlier, it's not going to be so easy these days, but the best time to plant a tree was in 2006 when we planted it, and the second best time to plant a tree is tomorrow or today. So go for it. 2 out of 3 is good enough for today.
Steph, a question from Wendy. Did you ever feel like giving up, and what kept you going?
Oh, absolutely. There's so many times I feel like I'm in over my head, but I think, again, it always comes back down to your why. And I try to imagine myself, when it does get really hard, and I know like Gabby referred to it as growing pains, which I'm definitely going through a lot of the time. It is definitely just try to imagine yourself not doing it. And I think as soon as you kind of think of that, I feel like when you have your purpose and your why, you can't just go back to a normal, working for someone else or whatever it is. But yeah, really just go back to your why and try to imagine yourself not doing it. And most of the time you're going to be like, no, I've started this. I want to see this thing through. And like any business, you're going to have highs and lows, and that's just part of it. And it's so normal as well.
Okay, thank you. I've got a question here from Gianna to you, Jeremy. To take advantage of these shifts that you talked about, what would be a great way to monitor these sales trends at the time? In other words, how do small business get to understand these sales trends?
Yeah, absolutely. There's quite a few great publications out there that do show sales trends over time, but that we actually at eBay have some really great inbuilt tools that help show product trends, demand and sourcing metrics, which provide sellers and consumers a really good idea as to what products are trending at the current time. But honestly, it would be just tapping into simple research on Google, finding different industry publications, and that's what we tend to find to look at those different trends. And then just starting a simple business store on eBay will open up those research insights. And as I said, with such a large consumer base, you'll get a good read on the different product trends and pricing trends to, as Gabby said, start today or tomorrow and just jump into a niche.
Fantastic. Thank you. Gabby, I've got a great question here from Michael from Curly Wally Bar. I love your talk, Gabby. Such amazing insights. Can I please ask, what was your biggest failure? And what did you learn from, and would you never do again?
Look, we have failed so many times. But most of our failures were due to probably lack of focus. There's a line that we mentioned in the book, and it says, when you have 10 ideas, 9 of them are the enemies of the main one. And we always have 10 ideas, and we want all 10 of them to succeed. But there is absolutely no way. Another line that I love from the book is the line that says, you need to kiss a few frogs in order to find your princess. And we're always happy to go on dates and meet lots of frogs, and some of them turn into princesses. So don't be afraid. Just go out there, make that move, create connections, and don't be afraid to fail. Just a quick one. I had the opportunity to invest in Afterpay at the very early days, and I told a young 26-year-old Nick Molnar that I don't believe he'll be able to compete against Visa, MasterCard, and PayPal in their own game. And that's a little regret rather than a failure. But it's the story that I often love to share, and hoping to meet the next Nick one day.
Okay, thanks, Gabby. Steph, I've got another question here from Angela. Says, it is hard to be seen, found online. I know, I love following online myself. I know we're up to, I think from last count, there are just over 2 billion websites. 2 billion websites. How do you stand out online?
Yeah, definitely. It can be hard to be, seen online every day, but I feel like, as I said, I'm just showing up as my authentic self, showing up online every day like I'm catching up with a friend. And I think to stand out, with my online store is, again, going back to my purpose and why I'm there. But it's also that I do like to give, my customers and people on there a lot of free resources. It's not just always about trying to sell with me. I just want to really help people. So I'm doing, free challenges. It could be like a declutter challenge. And during the pandemic and we're in lockdown, I gave a lot of mums free resources to keep their kids occupied at home. So I think it's just really showing what your purpose is and not being scared to actually, give them some nurturing products. So like free product, free online, resources and stuff like that. Definitely not being afraid to, get into email marketing as well and send them out a newsletter every few weeks with some more extra free resources as well.
And after you've got a database, can I add a little plug? There's this new technology that's starting to get some momentum. Steph, it's called Mail. I don't know if you've heard of it, but we're starting to see some amazing results. It's the only plug. I'll move on. Jeremy, back to you. It's interesting that you've provided some data on what's happening in the last year, past years, but what are the trends coming up in the near future that Kurt is asking?
Yeah, I think I sort of touched on that, I guess, before, Nick, and it's really the shift to e-commerce is there, and it's not going away, right? So we're seeing great opportunity for small and medium businesses to get online and tap into those 1 million new buyers that are now online, right? And then for those that are Australian businesses, we're seeing the trend towards consumers buying from local businesses. So really promoting your business as local, Aussie owned and made is yielding great results. So I'd say they're the two opportunities and they're the two trends that people can take advantage of. But obviously, there's a whole range of other tools and technology, and Gabby sort of touched on Afterpay and some of the payment models that are going to further the e-commerce landscape and help consumers buy products easier, quicker, faster. So there's a lot of opportunity there for new business, definitely.
We've got one last question, I've been told, and that's to you, Gabby. In any business and any business decision, there are risks. How did you evaluate risk? And what questions did you ask yourself to ensure you're comfortable in taking a particular risk or decision?
Look, being an entrepreneur goes hand in hand with taking risks. You'll never see me at the casino putting all my money on red or the roulette, but I think it's part of my DNA, and both myself and my brother enjoy taking risks. But in many cases, we refer to it as gut feeling. But what is gut feeling? Gut feeling is all of my knowledge that sits in my head, all of my learnings, all of my experiences, everything that I've taken so far, and I'm an old 50-year-old these days, that will hopefully allow me to be able to differentiate between a great opportunity to a not so great one. I don't think you can teach someone to be able to take risks, and those that don't are most likely are not business owners, and they're happy to continue being employees of certain companies. Being an entrepreneur is a special breed. I don't know any other way. I thought that I was ready to retire at the age of 50, Nick, but I realized very soon after that there's only so many spins of Caulfield Park I can do, and I promise you we'll be building more businesses because it's just part of who we are, and we're going to fail many times along the journey as well. It's just part of life. Thanks for having us today.
Really well. We're going to sort of close up. I just want to thank you, Gabby. It's certainly an amazing journey, and we certainly look to following you in your next chapter and the next book. But really, really, thank you very much. And Steph, you also have an amazing journey. 200,000 Instagram followers from a passion, which is amazing. So a great congratulations. Thank you for joining us today. And Jeremy, always a pleasure to have somebody from eBay to talk to us about exactly what the powerhouse of eBay is on about and the opportunities available. So we'll close the webinar again. Gabby, Steph, Jeremy, thank you very, very much. And to our listeners out there, as I said, you'll get a link with a recording that you may want to share and listen to. Thank you very much again, everybody, and look out for our next webinar coming your way next month. Another exciting webinar, which I look forward to welcoming you back. Have a great day, and as we say these days, stay safe. Take care.
Thank you. Thanks.
Bye.
Thank you.